boy, time for more. If I were to say this to people who didn't know what I was talking about, they'd think I was a racist. Ping pong diplomacy. Let's go through more stuff. We had last week. We watched as Mao's communism did infinite revolution forever, as I like to say, and completely destroyed every element, every facet of anything to do with China pre 1950, and completely just made a mockery of human existence. Just the absolute shit stain humanity that is Chinese communism. But we get to do more. We actually get a much longer episode today because I spent half of last episode ranting and raving, if not more. I'll try not to pause too much this time. Let's do the rest of this one. Let's go.
The excesses of the Cultural Revolution seemed to give Mao a stranglehold on power.
A real strangler, all
But there
right.
are now few within the leadership he trusts, and few who trust him.
Everybody looking over their shoulder now that we got the revolution forever.
Mao's relationship with Defense Minister Lin Biao begins to sour.
Really?
Each suspects the other of plotting their downfall.
See, in last episode, I called this too because I don't remember this being a thing necessarily, but I called it. This is what always happens. It's you're looking over your shoulder. The guy who you trust the most is now potentially your enemy because infinite revolution forever. There is no loyalty to anything human. All humanity leaves, and there's only fear. Only fear.
In 1971, Lin Biao decides he must flee China for his own safety.
Right.
With his family, he boards a flight to the Soviet Union, only for the plane to crash in Mongolia, killing all on board.
That was Mao's hand-picked, understood successor, Lin Biao, and his family. Gone.
Lin's former allies within the People's Liberation Army are soon purged.
Yep. Get rid of all of his friends. Everything to do with them, gone.
With Lin out of the picture, Premier Zhou Enlai rises further in status and authority. Never a diplomat, Mao relies on Zhou to restore harmony at home and build bridges abroad.
Morocco.
And in the early 70s, Zhou oversees a series of foreign policy successes that further enhance his prestige and popularity.
Zhou Enlai is just the palatable face of China, and he's not completely tainted by the... Well, I say again, he's not completely tainted by the internal struggle session, but he's never tried to fight it.
Since 1945, China's seat at the UN has been held by Taiwan, formerly the Republic of China.
Uh-oh.
This is the state created by Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist government when it fled at the end of the Civil War.
Right. 1949, he leaves Taiwan, becomes actual China.
But in 1971, after years of diplomatic maneuvering, the UN votes to recognize the People's Republic of China.
That is my thesis. My argument for why the UN should no longer exist, why the United States should always be to the detriment of the United Nations. Because if that shit happens, you just don't do it anymore. You can't. You can't keep doing this. If you have China maneuver like that within the United Nations should cease to exist. Just straight up gone. Tired of it. No bueno.
Communist China as the country's sole legitimate representative. And
I rest my
transfers to it
case.
Taiwan's seat as one of the UN Security Council's 5 permanent members.
The UN Security Council. 5 permanent members. China, like fake China. Again, fake China. Not real China, fake China.
Since the 60s, China's relations with the Soviet Union have been frosty. There have even been bloody border clashes between the two nuclear-armed communist powers.
I mean, shit, if Zhou and Mao has to walk on eggshells, Lin Biao, assassinated by Mao, basically. Him and his whole family assassinated because of, like, you know, he's your guy. He's literally the guy to succeed Mao. But they're not super trustworthy of each other, and so he gets assassinated. Why is the Soviet Union ever going to trust China? This is part of my problem, is that this is insane. It is insane on every single level. I don't know how it's possible for that to even sustain itself. Only through the sheer will of evil can China even maintain this.
The first is in 1969.
They should be natural allies.
East. But fighting later spreads to Xinjiang, leaving scores dead. Zhou now seeks to thaw relations with the world's other superpower, the USA.
Right.
Rapprochement begins in 1971, when the US ping pong team is invited to tour China.
Thank you so much, President Nixon. Absolute goat, not. Like, sorry, but everything that you've seen so far, understandably, this is not the sentiment of the American public because people don't always know. But especially back then, things don't get around as much. You see what you see on TV. But good God, it's just President Nixon, such a, like, easily one of the worst Republicans ever. Should never have done any of the stuff that he's going to do. I don't know if they fully explain all of this. I'll let
It's the first
him
official
explain.
visit by an American delegation since 1949. The US players are personally welcomed by Premier Zhou, who tactfully instructs the dominant Chinese team not to win every game.
Right.
The tour is considered a diplomatic triumph. In Zhou's words, opening the door for friendly exchange between the two nations. Building on the foundations of ping-pong diplomacy, US President Richard Nixon visits China in 1972.
Again, thank you so much for being a piece of shit. No offense, but it worst aged presidency of any Republican to hold the office, probably ever.
Nixon is a zealous anti-communist, but both sides see better relations as a means to gain leverage over the Soviet Union.
In the Soviet Union, like, maybe there's going to be someone in the comments. There's going to be someone in the comments who says, well, the Soviet Union fell 20 years later. This is clearly part of why. No. Not relevant. Not it. It's just not it. The Soviet Union eventually fell to pieces and has since then gained a little bit of ground. It's still a shitty country. Well, the former member states are largely still shitty countries, very corrupt, very bad oligarchies and everything. But come on, man, like China makes Russia look like a pansy in comparison. China makes Russia look almost saintly in comparison. It's so detrimental to human existence, this stupid CCP empire.
As a result, a US trade embargo, in place since the communists came to power in 1949, is lifted.
Boo! Boo!
In 1973, Zhou's long-term ally, Deng Xiaoping, is allowed to return to Beijing from internal exile in Jiangxi province. Mao agrees to rehabilitate him.
Right.
By 1974, Deng is once more vice premier, working closely with Zhou on foreign policy and day-to-day government. Dogged by ill health and increasing paranoia, Mao's hold over the party begins to wane.
He can't live forever.
But he will outlast one old rival. A giant portrait of Chiang Kai-shek had once overlooked Tiananmen Square, just as Mao's does now. Since his defeat in the Civil War, the former nationalist leader of China has headed an authoritarian government in Taiwan. He has overseen stunning economic growth, but failed in his ultimate goal, to reconquer the Chinese mainland. Chiang dies in Taipei in April 1975, aged 87.
This man should never be venerated because he is also kind of shitty. You know, I'm going to be the last person to advocate for an authoritarian dictator, but I will never sort of make some sort of weird contrast or comparison that CCP China is even in the same ballpark or league of authoritarian Taiwan, of authoritarian anything. Like, very authoritarian dictators are really bad. And what happens is they eventually fall out of power and things go back to normal. I don't like them, and hopefully the ground can be rebuilt. You know, the foundations upon which a society is made can withstand, can last, and can reflourish. That is not the same for China. Arguably, Russia has done a much better job of that than China ever could.
Rivalry,
which is insane,
between the two leaders passes to a new generation, but remains as fierce as ever. 4 months later, China is hit by a powerful typhoon. Heavy rain in Hunan province causes dozens of dams to collapse.
Probably weren't built well.
The resulting floods destroy millions of homes, but the authorities suppress reporting of the disaster.
Right, because
the official death toll is 26,000. More recent estimates point to a number several times higher.
Nearly 90% of it all was just shoved under the rug.
The failure of the dams, built at the height of Mao's great leap forward, is a tragic reminder of past mistakes.
Yup. Yeah, I said it's shitty.
Just
shitty
as
CCP
China's
dams.
future path is suddenly thrown into doubt.
I was Chairman Mao's dog. Whomever he told me to bite, I bit. Jiang Qing, 1980. The dog. The Gang of Four, 1975 to 1976. Hopefully not related to any sort of like Gang of Eight or a gang. It's funny when in politics when they ever refer to anything as a gang, because like you don't like the gang is usually temporary in its entirety. So I don't know. I don't make the rules. I don't make the names. I just say them again.
By 1975, the Chinese Communist Party is divided between modernizers and loyalists.
Right.
Leading the modernizers, Deng Xiaoping, Zhou and Mao.
The center left is anathema. The consistent, like the far left that barely exists. It is only the radical, extreme modernizing left versus the even more radical loyalists. That is all that is left.
And others, who now openly point the finger at a gang of four for inciting the worst excesses of the Cultural Revolution.
So you gotta have somebody to blame.
The gang, all Mao loyalists, is led by his wife, Jiang Qing, and includes Zhang Chenqiao, a political theorist, literary critic Yao Wenyuan, and labor activist Wang Hongwen.
Man.
All hold key positions in the party or state apparatus. Through the Central Cultural Revolution Group, they largely control state media.
Yep.
From newspapers and radio to revolutionary opera and theatre.
Just blame whoever's in charge, and infinite revolution forever, as it were.
The Gang of Four fight back against the modernizers, turning their propaganda machine against Deng and Zhou, who are labeled counter-revolutionary rightists.
The rightists. The rightists in China, after they have burned any aspect of what originally existed to the ground. Completely like overhauled everything. There is no more rightists. And that's just the term that they use to define people that they want to see dead or that they don't like.
Anxious to protect his legacy, Mao seems to be siding with the Gang of Four.
Right.
Then,
because infinite revolution forever, but Mao did all the stuff, right? He's the guy. Now he has to be the guy who's overthrown. Inherently. That's how infinite revolution forever works.
In January 1976, Zhou Enlai dies from cancer.
Wah, wah, wah.
Zhou had received an early diagnosis, but Mao had personally intervened to delay potentially life-saving treatment.
See, it's all shitty chippy shit, right? He wasn't a huge fan, so it's like, I don't want you to live.
Such was his determination to outlive his political rival.
Exactly.
As Chinese premier since 1949, Zhou was one of the key architects of Communist China.
Yuppers.
President Nixon had called him the greatest statesman of our era.
God, I just despise Richard Nixon.
And as a skilled diplomat and stabilizing force, he'd shaped foreign policy and helped to modernize the country. But his attempts to moderate Mao's mistakes had only limited success. His legacy is inescapably entwined with the disasters of Mao-era China. But Zhou remains hugely popular, and on the 4th of April, crowds gather in Tiananmen Square to mourn his death and protest against the attacks made on him by the Gang of Four.
Oh.
The following day, the army is sent in to clear the square, with around 40 arrests. Zhou's ally, Deng Xiaoping, is blamed for the disturbance and dismissed once again.
At least he just got dismissed, that's all.
Amidst rising tensions at the top of the party, Mao Zedong, plagued by heart and lung problems for years, dies aged 82.
That's the like Joe Biden face right there that he's got. He's just done. That's him at the end. There is no writ for this man, only good riddance. We don't at some point you cause enough destruction to where no one should ever mourn you ever.
Millions of Chinese have known no leader but Mao.
But all these people will mourn.
The country is in shock.
Sad.
A week of national mourning is declared. Over 7 days, 1 million visitors file past Mao's body as he lies in state in the Great Hall of the People in Tiananmen Square. The people are urged to turn grief into strength, carry forward Chairman Mao's legacy, and see the proletarian revolutionary cause through to the end. To most Chinese, Mao is and remains the great helmsman.
It's like it's for them. It's like Jesus died. Again, it's very sad that these people mourn this man in this way.
Titanic figure who guided China through stormy seas to security and prosperity. But his successes were matched by disastrous failures. His agricultural reforms, motivated by pure ideology, triggered the largest man-made famine in history.
Right.
Tens of millions died as a result. The Cultural Revolution saw suffering inflicted on many thousands of innocent victims. Mao's rule has left Chinese society highly regimented and riven with distrust. A place where any dissent is quickly and ruthlessly suppressed. In the words of veteran communist Chen Yun, had Mao died in 1956, his achievements would have been immortal. Had he died in 1966, he would still have been a great man, but flawed. But he died in 1976. Alas, what can one say?
No, I'm sorry. If he died in 1966, he again. How does the Great Leap Forward square with anything here? I just I don't understand. I don't understand how anyone can know about that and not just be taken aback by the destruction, the absolute devastating evil that is communism. Smash the Gang of Four. Communist Party slogan, 1976. Honoring Mao, rejecting Maoism. See, that's the double standard here.
The Chinese Communist Party is now deeply split between those loyal to Mao and his legacy and those who oppose the brutality of the Cultural Revolution. Mao's designated successor is Hua Guofeng.
Guofeng.
He is an able, if uninspiring, party official, but lacks prestige and personal authority.
I don't think he's party leader very
Officially, his mantra is clear. Whatever policy Chairman Mao decided upon, we shall resolutely defend. Whatever directives Chairman Mao issued, we shall steadfastly obey.
The religion, man. It's too much.
In practice, he pulls off a delicate balancing act between honoring Mao's legacy and modernization. His first task is to deal with the Gang of Four, led by Mao's widow, Jiang Qing. For many, they embody the worst excesses of Mao's rule.
There always has to be an enemy somewhere. Always. Revolution, infinite revolution
After
forever.
the period of national mourning comes to an end, Hua moves against them.
What?
On the 6th of October 1976, the Gang of Four are arrested. They are accused of orchestrating the chaos and violence of the Cultural Revolution. In a televised trial, Jiang Qing defends herself passionately. But all four are found guilty of counter-revolutionary activities.
Counter-revolutionary activities.
Jiang Qing and Zhun Chenxiao are sentenced to death.
Mao's own wife.
Their sentences are later commuted to life imprisonment.
Well, okay. Life in prison's a little better.
In 1991, Jiang takes her own life in prison.
Yep.
A Mao loyalist to the end. with blame for past
This is Mao loyalists killing and imprisoning Mao loyalists at this point. That is all that exists. All that remains is devastation and Mao.
mistakes pinned on the Gang of Four. Mao's status as the great helmsman can remain unquestioned and inviolable.
Uphold Mao's banner and push forward the goals of the new era. Of course.
But it is clear that in communist China, a new era is beginning.
Uh-oh. Emancipate the mind, seek truth from facts. Unite as one and look forward. Deng Xiaoping. We take truth. We go with truth over facts here. That's what I say. The rise of Deng. Not even Mudang. Mudang would have been alright. But not this Deng. Not this Deng.
The Gang of Four had represented one extreme of the Chinese Communist Party. The Mao loyalists. If one figure represents the opposite wing of the party, it's Deng Xiaoping. Now aged 72, Deng's fortunes within the party have fluctuated wildly.
Deng.
In the 1930s, he'd supported Mao in the rural Soviets and the struggles against the Kuomintang. He'd become a willing enforcer of the brutal anti-rightist campaigns of the 1950s. An economic reformer in the 1960s. Then a sudden and dramatic fall from favour at the height of the Cultural Revolution. Deng is now seen as a natural leader, a talent too great for the party to ignore.
Right, they have to go with something.
In July 1977, Hua Guofeng rehabilitates Deng for a second time, appointing him vice chairman of the Communist Party.
The hair is getting slightly better as we go forth, too.
From now on, all the momentum is with the reformers. Deng is acutely aware that China is in a disastrous state, weakened by Mao's Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution. The average income of a Chinese peasant, still 80% of the population, is just $40 US a year.
Let that sink in a little bit. I mean, I understand, like, food is going to be cheaper in an economy that can't sustain something. There's certain aspects of it that aren't, like... Maybe you understand it. It's not nearly as bad as it sounds, but it's still pretty bad. It's way bad. $40 a year? Dude, I know people make $40 an hour.
Because of the Cultural Revolution, crucial positions across the country are held by unqualified military officials and Mao loyalists.
Worth saying, though, that $40 in 77 was, like... It's probably close to, like, $200 now.
Universities have been shuttered for a decade. Thousands of educated people and party officials have been exiled to the countryside to perform menial labor.
It's always menial
Infrastructure
labor.
And industry are in a state of neglect and disrepair. Deng believes the solution must be radical reform.
Always and forever.
He will deviate from decades of Maoist ideology and advocate openness to new ideas and technologies, wherever they come from.
At least not completely backwards. There's an at least. There's one at least we can find after this amount of time.
Students and officials are encouraged to spend time abroad. The goal will be the 4 modernizations introduced by Zhou and Mao in agriculture, industry, science, and defense. Deng steadily increases his power and support within the party. By late 1978, he is officially the third most senior member of the Politburo.
Wild.
But in reality, Deng is calling the shots. Deng Xiaoping is finally free to enact the reforms he believes China desperately needs. The consequence will be a transformation unprecedented in history.
In China, everyone will have dung. And that, ladies and gentlemen, based on the music,
if you love his
that is the end of that episode. It's a long one. It's a little bit longer. I think this one's closer to like 32 minutes as opposed to the normal like 27, 28. But across episodes 9 and 10, been a long couple episodes. But again, this is so important. This is so important to recognize. So important to see. China is technically a little bit better off inherently than they were during the Cultural Revolution, I guess. Better than literally everyone dying is not great. But as we're gonna see in the next one, they modernize a little bit in terms of standards of production, and that's literally the difference. Still CCP, still really bad, still obscenely oppressive, still like human rights violations left, right, and center. But at least they get their act together when it comes to the technology aspect. So that's what you get. That's what you get here. That's what you're gonna get. Let me know. Let me know what you want me to do next. We have 2 more weeks. We have 2 more episodes. 1 episode of Epic History, 2 episodes of this. We're gonna be doing, and I've been enjoying this. This has been, well, I mean, it's been a little bit emotionally devastating because I have to watch this. I know enough to know how this kind of is and how it goes, but it's not pleasant, guys. It's been pleasant to be here with you, but it is not pleasant what is taking place in these history videos. But it almost never is. It's seldom pleasant what happens in history. It is always good to learn about it so that what happens in history, we can maybe avoid that in the present or in the future, mainly the future. Definitely be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. I will see you all again next week. Ni hao.